Okay. What I thought I'd do is try to read quite slowly the first few chapters of this work, and to try and fill you in with some of the background, because it's because it was a work written in in a long time ago, and it was also written in a fairly far away place. I mean, it was in the Middle East, and it was written against a different cultural background. So it's really the cultural background that I really want to focus on here, so that so that while we're reading it, I think the what would show success is when you start asking things like, isn't this really odd? Or why does the author say this? Or this makes no sense whatever. Because it's all too easy to skim over the top and just think that you understand it. And but it's really think of it as an alien book. Okay, so and also rather alien. You'll notice that the chapters here are really quite short. They are much shorter than they are in sort of modern books. I mean, they're sort of about paragraph length or maybe a bit longer, but not any ideas on why? Okay, well, here's one thing. What was the physical form of the book?
Scroll.
It was a scroll. And how do you read a scroll? You have it on a pair of sticks and you just do that to it. How long can a reason? This is going to get very difficult if the scroll gets too large and heavy. So how long do you think a scroll would be? Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's and that was what they then called a book. So it's so what they called a book then would be basically what we would call a long chapter, and then sort of success, and then it would be possibly quite long, but you get what we would call books. I mean, sort of complete works would be about 15, 20, 30 books. And books were divided up into chapters, and as you see, they're quite short. And the chapter here is something you can comfortably get into your head. So, could someone read out the first one?
The address.
Yeah.
Yes. To the Emperor Titus Aelius Adrenius Antoninus Pius Augustus Caesar, and to his son Verissimus the philosopher, and to Lucius the philosopher, the natural son of Caesar, and the adopted son of Pius, a lover of learning, and to the sacred Senate, with the whole people of the Romans, I, Justin, the son of Pricius, the grandson of Bacchius, native to the Flavia Neapolis in Palestine, present this address and petition on behalf of those of all nations who are unjustly hated and wantonly abused, myself being one of them.
So,
sorry, it's
right.
quite dramatic.
It's quite dramatic. No, I think it was sort of exactly right. The emperor has a very long name. He would normally have been referred to as, Titus or Titus Aelius. The emperor is obviously just a title, but his sort of first name and then sort of second name. Here it's quite long because after all he was an emperor, so he had lots of names. And he has a son, the son of the emperor, called Verisimus, and to Lucius the philosopher, who is obviously another philosopher, and who is the natural son of Caesar. What does
Which Caesar?
It's the emperor title. I think it's
the illegitimate son, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an illegitimate son. Of course, it's and I think he just says the natural son of Caesar. So this probably means that this Caesar is the same as the Caesar at the beginning of the sentence. Son of Titus Aelius, so natural son, and the adopted son of Pius, a lover of learning, and to the sacred Senate with the whole people of the Romans. Pius is, a Latin word, and it sort of either means, a lover of learning or a lover of religion. So it's, so he's, and then he's saying, Justin, the son of Priscus and grandson of Bacchius, father and grandfather, natives of Flava Neapolis in Palestine. This was, way over to the east. Present this address and petition on behalf of those of all nations who are unjustly hated and wantonly abused, myself being one of them. Why unjustly hated? Can you think of one thing which might?
Well, I'm trying to remember from the last session that some of his arguments, but unjustly hated, basically because of his faith, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because of his faith.
Yeah.
And this is a very, very sort of almost fragile period, because you have got this sort of traditional Roman and Greek religion, which was, and then you have the Christianity coming in sort of on top of that and sort of trying to make major changes to the way that and trying to install monotheism into the so present this address and petition on behalf of all nations who are unjustly hated and wantonly abused, myself being one of them. So he's also talking about these people, the Christians, as if they were sort of a unity, that they're not just members of the this nation or from this way of from this way of behavior, and myself being one of them. So okay, which other groups of people can you think of who were like that in the ancient world?
What you mean unjustly hated?
Well, yeah, who were groups, transnational groups.
So I mean, you've got Christians who are a minority.
Yes,
at the time.
yes.
So they feel themselves, and they are somehow or other excluded groups.
Yes, yeah.
But you'd also perhaps slaves, enslaved people,
And Jews.
And Jews.
the Jews,
Yeah.
and the Jews as well. The same,
Yeah. And for a very long time, the Jews were quite a an important group of people, but they were also a bit of an odd group of people because they didn't, they didn't classify themselves by locality. They said, we are Jews and we are sort of this transnational group. So there's those as well. Okay.
Were there any coloured people around at that time? I mean, top of my head. Africans.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, well, there was, for example, there was a famous early church father called Moses the Black.
Oh,
who came from Lower Egypt, I think, and he was black.
Oh gosh, that's interesting.
Also North Africa.
Also, yeah.
And Alexandria, north of Egypt, was very major centre.
Yes.
That's where St. Mark was.
Yes. And also, the Romans, certainly the Romans didn't think of themselves as white, or because, well, certainly the men didn't, because, men were, went about in the open air and did manly stuff. So they generally had quite tan skins. Not the women. The women were,
Perfect.
very often white, but the the sort of masculine chaps, they were well tanned. That was a
same old story.
yes. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 2. Does anyone else? Yeah.
Justice demanded. Reason directs those who are truly pious and philosophical to honour and love only what is true, declining to follow traditional opinions if these be worthless. For not only does sound reason direct us to refuse the guidance of those who did or taught anything wrong, but it is incumbent on the lover of truth by all means, and if death be threatened, even before his own life, to choose to do and to say what is right. Do you then, since you are called pious and philosophers, guardians of justice and lovers of learning, give good heed and hearken to my address? And if you are indeed such, it will be manifested. For we have come not to flatter you by this writing, nor to please you by our address, but to beg that you pass judgment after an accurate and searching investigation, not flattered by prejudice or by a desire of pleasing superstitious men, nor induced by irrational impulse or evil rumours which have long been prevalent, to give a decision which will prove to be against yourselves. For as for us, we reckon that no evil can be done to us unless we be convicted of evildoers or be proved to be wicked men. And you can kill, but not hurt us.
Okay. Reactions to this?
Kill but not hurt us.
Yes.
Reason directs those who are truly pious. So that's quite interesting.
It's very interesting, yes.
I think the whole thing is very bold from the beginning of who he is, how he is addressing them.
Yes.
He, is wanting to say that he considers them to be lovers of learning and esteemed people, honest and good people. And he goes on about that. So he's then still, well, I mean, he was very bold with his last sentence of
yeah.
chapter 1. And then he is being bold again, not flattering, but we want you to recognize the truth. We want you to judge by rational thinking, and only if we've done something wrong can then we be
Yeah, yes,
hated
yeah,
or punished.
yes. I think that that's very true, and it and also the other, the other thing is here that he identifies himself as a philosopher. Now, these days philosophers, are generally academics. There are people who teach in universities or whatever, and who writes academic books and stuff like that. But here he is identifying himself as a philosopher, and this is, being a philosopher then is obviously more of a commitment than just being, being in a certain profession. So it's something which is something which is you have to put your whole self into it or something, something like that. It sort of contrasts a bit with the what I was telling you about traditional society, which was sort of very local and based on cities or nations or whatever, and this seems to be much more universal than so as well as Christianity and Judaism, then you have another group of people who are who think they belong to a sort of worldwide, or at least Mediterranean-wide grouping of people, and these are the philosophers.
So in a way, it's a very formal defense.
Yes.
And it's addressed to Caesar and to to the emperor and so on. But it's a very formal defense of a community that is under attack.
Yes.
And so he has to use very formal language and very respectful language in order to get a hearing. Yes.
But it's also something which he has to be committed to himself. And I mean, the words, the word pious sort of is one of the words which you would apply to so it would be somebody who was cares about their religion, but also here it would be pious because of their because of their serious intellectual orientation, and this means that you decline to follow traditional opinions if these be worthless, and and this is something and he obviously thinks of himself as somebody who can decide whether something is worthy or worthless, and it's a very serious thing. You have to refuse the guidance of those who did or taught anything wrong. So I mean, if we think of ourselves who the people we know, and how many people do we know who taught anything wrong? Well, probably quite a lot. And do we refuse to follow their guidance? Well,
it depends what position you are in today.
Yes,
and they are.
Yes. But you see, I mean, if we and it's very rather, or because I mean, if we get an electrician in, then we're following the guidance of the electrician. But and the electrician looks at your circuit and says, well, we should do this and this. but that only extends as far as being an electrician goes. But you know, if you're a lover of truth, then you know there are a lot of people whose guidance you don't follow if you think that they're, you know, not equally lovers of truth. And it goes, you know, and if death be threatened, you know, death is in it, you know, even before his own life, to choose to do and say what is right. So, you know, and do you then, since you are called, and you know, he is enumerating the sort of things that, you know, his audience thinks of themselves as being. They're pious, they're philosophers in the, you know, strong sense. They're guardians of justice. So, yeah, and this is again something that people have to appropriate, and it's not, you know, not like, you know, if you go to court, then you know, you can go to court without being a lover of justice or whatever. You can go to a court because you think it might work out in your favor. But obviously, this is, you know, if you're a guardian of justice, you need to be more committed to the truth and such like, and so on. Hearken to my address. And if you are indeed such, it will be manifested. So, okay, a question. How will it be manifested? Because, you know, you know, you can spend quite a lot of time with somebody, and it won't, you know, you won't come across, you know, and you won't get their sort of self-disclosure in any strong sense.
Well, I guess, I mean, from what he's trying to do, isn't it? I mean, you say death is, you know, regardless of death. I mean, he may well be facing the possibility of death. I mean, it's not academic.
No.
Statement. I mean, he's called Justin Martyr, so
yes, yes,
he hadn't got that name at that point. You know, he was called Martyr later, and for obvious reason.
No, he was called Martyr to be.
Martyr to be.
yes.
Yeah. But I mean, if the truth is manifest, then there will be a radical shift and change in the attitude of the Roman Empire towards Jews and Christians.
Yes.
Yeah. So what he's expecting, I guess, is something significant to change in the attitudes of society towards Christians in particular. And he's setting himself up as a kind of spokesperson for the community.
Yes, yes, yes. And he's also saying, you know, it's sort of very much we, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's saying this is what we are like, or what we ought to be like. I mean, obviously, not everybody can carry it out, but what we ought to be like. Okay, next sentence, which is a long one. Anyone want to? No, the next sentence.
Which is that one?
For we have come not to flatter you by this writing.
Oh, carry on.
Yeah.
We have come not to flatter you by this writing, nor please you by our address, but to beg that you pass judgment after an accurate and searching investigation, not flattered by prejudice or by a desire of pleasing superstitious men, or induced by irrational impulse or evil rumours which have long been prevalent, to give a decision which will prove to be against yourselves. For as for us, we reckon that no evil can be done us, unless we be convicted as evildoers or be proved to be wicked men. And you can't kill, but not hurt. You can kill, but not hurt us.
Yeah. And, you know, he's starting off, you know, for we have come not to, you know, do or flatter you by this writing or please you by our, I mean, you know, he is obviously thinking of the, you know, the world they lived in that sense. It's a, you know, it's a bunch of flatterers.
And he's saying, I'm basically coming to ask you to realize that you have been wrong.
Yes, yes. Yes, and that's because you are the the flatterers and the pleasers, but he's trying to beg you that you pass judgment after an accurate and searching on investigation. And notice also who are the people who actually do pass judgment after an accurate searching investigation? These are lawyers. So that he's getting them to behave as if they were lawyers, and and not do the stuff that everybody else does, being flattered by prejudice, wanting to please superstitious men, follow irrational impulse or evil rumors, and to give a decision which will prove to be against yourselves. For as for us, we reckon that no evil can be done us unless we can be convicted as evildoers or proved to be wicked. So here's, he's talking about, this very lawyerly language.
But we've no idea what it is he's asking, what it is that he's asking Caesar to do, and we know he's asking him to pass judgment, but judgment on what?
Yes.
I mean, what is it?
This is sort of part of the art of it. This is, because he's giving this very vivid picture of what these people ought to be like when they've assimilated this stuff. But he's actually not saying anything about the content of his teaching. And it's and that's I think it and it's a sort of very good way of engaging your hearers, because the hearers are going to have the sort of reaction that you did. Well, this is all very well, but what on earth is he talking about? And and this combination of saying of giving this sort of very of this description of how it is. And it's obviously something which or whatever you decide, you have to he's telling you that you can kill but you can't hurt us. So it's because of the doctrine that is.
But that's a really brave thing to say, isn't it? You can kill us but not hurt us. So it's kind of inviting.
Yes,
you're saying, okay, this is a serious thing. We are already a persecuted group.
Yes.
We're telling you why we're actually all right, and there's no need to persecute us. But if you carry on, we will carry on, and you can kill us but not hurt us. We will still be here. Our community will still be here despite the persecution. I think is really important for just some contemporary situations where people.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
Where people living under persecution.
Refugees. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, why don't I read out the next chapter 3, and see if you, my audience, can say what you think it's about. But lest anyone think that this is an unreasonable and reckless utterance, we demand that the charges against the Christians be investigated, and that, if these be substantiated, they be punished as they deserve, or rather, indeed, we ourselves will punish them. But if no one can convict us of anything, true reason forbids you, for the sake of a wicked rumor, to wrong blameless men, and indeed rather yourselves, who think fit to direct affairs, not by judgment, but by passion. And every sober-minded person would declare this to be the only fair and equitable adjustment, namely, that the subjects render an unexceptional account of their own life and doctrine, and that, on the other hand, the rulers should give their decision in obedience, not to violence and tyranny, but to piety and philosophy. For thus would both rulers and ruled reap benefit. For even one of the ancients somewhere said, unless both rulers and ruled philosophize, it is impossible to make states blessed. It is our task, therefore, to afford to all an opportunity of inspecting our lives and teachings, lest on account of those who are accustomed to be ignorant of our affairs, we should incur the penalty due to them for mental blindness. And it is your business, when you hear us, to be found, as reason demands, good judgments. For if, when you have learned the truth, you do not do what is just, you will be before God without excuse. Right.
As both rulers and ruled philosophize, it's impossible to make states blessed. And that's so interesting. And not much more to say about it.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, but certainly rulers philosophize. I think it's kind of interesting idea, but not necessarily, not always good. Thanks.
No, and rules and rules both philosophizing, and that
So they're working together.
yes,
There's not one
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
person imposing their will on a lot of others.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I guess also, I mean, if you have a group, I mean, a government of any kind,
yes,
then it only works if the people accept they're being governed.
yes,
So,
yes,
and you have to accept the kind of system and the rules by
Yes.
which you are governed. So,
yes,
so if you're governed by a dictatorship and you don't accept the principle that strong men, henchmen should rule, then you've got that the state will not be blessed. And if you have a democracy and people don't want a democracy, or if you want to have in a democracy but you have now a government that is kind of undermining the democracy, then the state is not going to be blessed. And there's going to be this kind of tension. Really interesting,
yes,
It sounds like you need an educated populace, not an ignorant.
yes,
populace.
yes, and a populace that's educated all the way down. And then a sort of obedience not to violence and tyranny, but to piety and philosophy. Well, it's sort of, philosophy is what he's been talking about in the first couple of chapters. Piety doesn't really mean what we mean by piety. It's sort of of being it's sort of trying hard to do what is right, and also trying hard to follow the judgments of wise people, so that it's not solely religious. But it's that the people who are pious should obey the stuff that that makes people good, and And then, unless both rulers and ruled philosophize, it's impossible to make states blessed. That's very, because very often when you sort of think of philosophers, then you think of philosophers always disagreeing with one another. So that, how you're going to, integrate philosophy and politics here is really very, it's a difficult task.
I'm quite taken by how cheeky this is.
Yes.
Because what it seems to be saying is, you basically saying you're ruling us and treating us in a very violent way.
Yeah.
But we're appealing to you in a very rational, very reasonable way. You judge us and check us out for who we really are.
Yeah.
And then if you continue to treat us in this violent, oppressive way, then you have to face God without excuse. So, and given that as addressing the emperor and the powers that be is actually much braver and much more audacious than the formality of the language kind of implies, isn't it?
Yes, yes. No, and it's very sort of legal sounding language, but it has, it's sort of designed to go much deeper than obedience to the law would go. And
who's he really thinking about? I'm intrigued by the sentence, art asked to afford an opportunity of inspecting our life and teachings to all, where it says to all, because then we're implied there are some people who don't know, and they could be lower down kinds of people who are persecuting the Christians. And he doesn't think that it's at all right for them to be taking the punishment, the blame due to them for not knowing what's right, for their mental blindness, for not knowing the truth. So it's quite sweeping there.
Yes, yes.
Taking in not just those to whom he's addressing it, but to others.
Yes.
Or is that not quite so?
Yes, and it is, very much. I mean, and also it's directed against the elite. He's talking to the elite of the German, of the Roman Empire. So that, I think he's sort of leaving to one side the question of what do you do about people who aren't as clever as all that. How do you deal with the people with limited mental faculties, and I think that's sort of it's very one-sided in that way, and I think it's one-sided in the same way that the sort of Roman Empire was one-sided. That you've got this elite, this intellectual and legal elite who basically run everything, and that that when you write political stuff, you write for the elite, and you're not. So it's a much less.
So these people, now you've said that, these people who are lower down in the pecking order, they might not be limited mental faculties. They might be the butchers, bakers, and cattle.
Yes, exactly.
That doesn't mean they're unintelligent.
No,
they
yes.
just are not insane staff, but they still might be making judgments about Christians who they meet.
Yes, and that's certainly true. And I think it's also true that I mean a lot of this, the sort of picture which chapter 3 paints isn't solely to do with Christians. It's to do with the Roman Empire and the way that the Roman Empire was governed, and he is addressing the elite of the Roman Empire.
It's a bit like sort of Home Office officials making judgments on asylum cases when they haven't been properly trained.
Yes. I mean, it could be very much like that, and and people talk of people these days talk of the Westminster bubble, of the these highly educated London-based people who run the country
and know nothing.
And know nothing. Yes. So he's sort of, and obviously he is, Justin Martyr is writing this in a very specific situation, and against, and he has obviously, certain fairly, he has his adversaries well in mind, but they are, they are adversaries that are part of the elite, and.
But can I just come in on something, because something is puzzling me in terms of him saying both the rulers and the ruled must philosophize. Well, he doesn't say must philosophize, but the state is blessed. There's two ways of reading that. It depends who he's addressing. I mean, obviously, Graham, you're saying he's addressing the rulers, which I get. And in that case, he's basically saying, rulers, you've got to listen to your people. But there's also another way of reading it, which is that the people have a responsibility to philosophize as well.
Yes.
That the onus is on them. And so the Home Office official who hasn't been trained properly with regards to asylum seekers doesn't get off the hook. They have a responsibility to go, hang on, I haven't been trained properly. I don't know what I'm doing here. I need to know what the big idea is.
Yeah.
I think philosophy... Would Justin have seen philosophy as about big ideas? Because that's what it seems to me we don't engage with properly now. We don't know what the big ideas are. And neither the rulers nor the ruled know what those are. And that's why we're in such a mess.
Yes. And and there's another thing, which is that, even in the further down in society, you're always going to, regardless of how much of a formal education these people have had, you're always going to get people who are intelligent and who are asking questions to themselves, and probably and in their so it sort of all gets really quite complex. Yeah. Anyway, does anyone want to read out chapter 4? I mean, how's time going?
10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Minutes.
Yes. Okay. Let's. Okay. So if somebody reads out chapter 4. Yes. Okay.
Anybody want?
Yes, and then after that, I think we should go around and people should say, say what questions they have about what they just heard.
Right. By the mere application of a name, nothing is decided, either good or evil, apart from the actions implied in the name. And indeed, so far, at least, as one may judge from the name we are accused of, we are most excellent people. But as we do not think it just to beg to be acquitted on account of the name, if we be convicted as evildoers, so, on the other hand, if we be found to have committed no offence, either in the matter of thus naming ourselves or of our conduct as citizens, it is your part very earnestly to guard against incurring just punishment by unjustly punishing those who are not convicted. For from a name neither praise nor punishment could reasonably spring, unless something excellent or base in action can be proved. And those among yourselves who are accused you do not punish before they are convicted. But in our case, you receive the name as proof against us. And although so far as the name goes, you ought rather to punish our accusers. For we are accused of being Christians, and to hate what is excellent, Christian, is unjust. Again, if any of the accused deny the name, and say that he is not a Christian, you acquit him, as having no evidence against him as a wrongdoer. But if anyone acknowledge that he is a Christian, you punish him on account of this acknowledgement. Justice requires that you inquire into the life both of him who confesses and him who denies, that by his deeds it may be apparent what kind of man each is. For as some who have been taught by the Master, Christ, not to deny him, have given encouragement to others when they are put to the question, so in all probability do those who lead wicked lives give occasion to those who, without consideration, take upon them to accuse all the Christians of impiety and wickedness. And this also is not right. For a philosophy too, some assume the name and the garb who do nothing worthy of their profession. And you are well aware that those of the ancients whose opinions and teachings were quite diverse are yet all called by the one name of philosophers. And of these some taught atheism, and the poets who have flourished among you raise a laugh out of the uncleanliness of Jupiter with his own children. And those who now adopt such instruction are not restrained by you, but on the contrary, you bestow prizes and honours upon those who euphoniously insult the gods.
It's getting into stride, isn't it?
Yes.
Going dramatic again.
Yes.
That's really, yeah. I mean, he says that some of these philosophers teach atheism, and yet, you know, and yet we're the enemies here is the kind of, you know. Sorry.
Yeah.
So does anybody
Have any questions?
on the on the screen? Are you hearing okay? And anything you want to come in on? Yeah. Okay. Just checking. I mean, this thing about the name. I mean, it's almost, you know, you just say you're condemning us because you've been given this name, Christian. You know?
Yeah.
But you're not actually looking at what lies behind that name. You're not looking at what it means, what the name Christian means, where it comes from, and what quality of life is represented by that. You're just automatically assuming because you are named as Christian, you're outside and against the order of the day, and therefore to be excluded.
Could you remind me what kind of period this was? Was it very early Christian?
2nd century.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is really quite early. Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's not long. I mean, after say Matthew's Gospel was written, you know, I mean, 50 years, you know, whatever.
Yes,
after,
yes,
so it's
yes.
not long.
Not long.
Yes, no, and you know, the group of Christians was still quite small. And,
there would be some of them probably, like now, Christians were doing the wrong things, were, you know, not behaving right, you know, and maybe they should be sort of pointed out at the beginning saying, I'm really sorry about this, but, you know, a few friends of mine down the road, they weren't behaving very well. I'm sorry about this, but can you look again at what we were doing and forgive us, please? I'm sorry. You know, I wonder if they should have perhaps said something like that. Okay, or not.
well, yes. I mean, I think that's, you know, there's certainly a lot to that. But I think also, you know, I think the fact that, you know, the Christians are taking up this stance, which is in a way putting themselves outside of society, so that, you know, so that although they could have, you know, they could be criticized for you know, for you know, the sort of normal things, normal wrongdoing. What really stands out is their Christianity and their, their sort of critique of the whole fabric of Roman society. I think.
In a way, it sort of interests me that we don't feel the need to make a defense of Christianity in our society in a way that he does. I mean, he's got a very urgent need to justify who we are, to say who we are, to say what they stand for. But we sort of take our position in this society. We take our position as read. It's not a problem for us. But in some societies, it most certainly is a problem to be a Christian. And I wonder if we are somehow or other not rehearsing our own argument as to why we are and what we think and what we represent. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes, of course, we have a long history behind us, and one of the aspects of that history was the damage done by by Christians or people who call themselves Christian to people of other faiths, or to and to indigenous people and so on and so forth. So so I think if if we do want to say what we are as Christians in this sort of in the strong sense, then we've also got to take account of the way the ways our self-proclamation as Christians has gone horribly wrong. And
agree.
Really important. Just have 3 minutes. Or 3.
Yes.
Respect.
Yes. And the stuff about the uncleanness of Jupiter with his own children.
Yes.
That was about incest.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And but it really is a sort of rather strange religious system that you have. This religion which is founded on some a lot of stories which it was difficult to take seriously, which then got overlain by very sophisticated religious positions on top of that.
We kind of we've got not a dissimilar situation, if you like, that there are views of the world which determine the way in which society functions. I mean, this emphasis on individualism, for example. We are all individuals, and we all have the right to choose and make our own decisions. And that's it.
Yes.
I mean, in a way, that's also a very flawed philosophy. And we Christians would be challenged in our society as being well, I mean, you would be regarded in some ways as being excluding and exclusive, because you're not joining in this prevailing attitudes in society. I'm not sure I'm expressing myself very well, but I'm just seeing it in comparison, say, to the prevailing notion of the gods and their behavior as being ruling and judging and controlling what actually happens. In those times, in our time, we've also got a philosophy which is kind of unspoken or just recognized and assumed to be the norm, but it is counter to the Christian way. I'm not making sense. I know.
Yeah,
But I did try.
I've got most of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry.
yeah, and but I think it's also that we are in this society which which is not which in some ways is very inimical to what we do, but also that the fact that we're now living in a worldwide society, and which is full of and there are just so many tensions. I mean, not just the tension between religion and secularism, but also the the differences between between the different religions, and also the and also the way in which the sort of really big tensions between altruism and selfishness, which are very
excellent. Well, Maria, was that did you follow us, and was it okay?
Yeah.
Good. It's really nice to have you there. It's really nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you want to sum up or say anything, Graham?
Not particularly. I think it's I think I mean I think it's very no, I think it's we've seen the sort of various parts of Justin Martyr's doctrines, and I think our task is to sort of make sense of them in our society, or at least know where the tensions lie, which